Have you ever wondered what your art styles would look like if you had stuck with them through the years? Yeah, I've had that exact same question for many years now. Actually, I explored this idea previously in a sketchbook tour, which I believe was, I think like sketchbook 4 or 5, which was back in 2020, 6 years ago from now, when I'm recording this. And so I decided to explore that idea because I have free will. Hello, how are you? Today I will be drawing in my old art styles as if I had stuck with them through the years. Why did I decide to do this? I don't know, you think I know what I'm doing? But I won't explore every single year because, well, at some point I actually found my art style and not much has changed. So let's just get into it. First off, we have 2017. Now, if you have watched my folder series, which, my god, I recommend that series just way too much. But it makes sense, right? That is basically like my art journey. In that series, in the first little episode, you will see that I technically started drawing people in 2016. Before that, I was a furry and we don't talk about it. So 2016 is when I started drawing people, which was when I met this guy online who drew in an anime art style, and I just found that style very pretty and wanted to do the same. But I wasn't good at it because I had no notion of anatomy or anything, really. So, that's when I started drawing people, but I didn't have really a style. I mostly searched for anime girls online and sort of tried to imitate that look, which if you see those drawings, it looks nothing like it. Now 2017, which is the year that you see in the back here, we have to get into a little story time, okay? Look, the Hamilton musical, okay? The Hamilton musical, I can't deny it. I just got way too into it, and if you were around during that time, you will know a little, animator or an animatic person, I guess. A little artist back then with the username Galactibon, or I think it was like Scribbles or something, and their art style, chef's kiss, okay? My god, and I loved that so much that I sort of wanted to imitate that. So I imagine that if I had stuck with my art style from 2017, which was a lot more cartoony as in the Western style in comparison to the usual anime style, which I was, trying to do previously. If I had stuck with it, it would have looked very round and shapeish. So for these, I will be drawing myself. Now, if you know, I don't tend to make drawings for myself, as in Angel Kill. Hi, this is me, my persona, which it pretty much looks like me. Well, I don't tend to do drawings for myself because it's like, why do I want drawings myself if I can draw like my OCs and my stories and whatnot? So I, don't do that because I also, whenever I do draw myself, I tend to not put effort into it because it's like this thing, like, why? I don't know, it's just weird. So this time I challenged myself with actually making drawings for myself. So I'll be drawing myself and making drawings for me with like the intent of it being decentish. So I'm putting myself a bit out of my comfort zone in a sense, I guess, but also not really. So here is the little idea of what would be my art style nowadays if I had stuck with my art style from 2017, which technically isn't my own, but also it is. For example, I know that I would have gone for a very Galactibon style route, right? Their art, amazing. Their art style, iconic. But I think that I would have changed some stuff. I think that I would have gone through the tubification of 2020, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're missing out on the sketchbook tour series. I think that I would have gone for the tubification, and at some point I would realize that it's just too much, and I would have gone away from that. So I would have gone for a less tubified, but still like very round. And I would have gone for a really strong shape language, which is what I did with the hair here, which is more squarish and rectangularish. Now that I realize, I did everything like very rectangularish at the ends, like very spaghetti style, or I mean that one like long flat spaghetti. But I didn't do that for the bangs, so it's a bit odd. But honestly, if you compare this to my previous 2017 styles, it's honestly scary how you can see that like it would be the same person who drew it, because it is, and it's like the same art style but better. Honestly, when I was drawing this and I looked at my reference picture, which I had beside me, which I just took a screenshot from my folder series, okay, I don't deny it, it was honestly terrifying, okay. I actually got scared because it's the same person who drew these, right? Of course, but it's like, I draw so differently nowadays that doesn't even look like the same person drew that. And here it does, so that's cool. And around here you can see the finished result for this, which is the 2017 art style of Angel Kill, but it's 2026. So for the next one we are going to 2018. And here when I started like exploring my 2018 art style, which this is one of those eras of my drawing journey which I remember vividly. I don't know why, but whenever I look at my actual 2018 drawings, which are in a folder, which is why I have the folder series, I just used to draw on loose paper. When I look at my 2018 art and those little drawings and I grab them in my hand, I can like vividly remember drawing those and where I was and what I was thinking, what I was doing. So here I went a bit out there, okay. I just got a bit inspired, okay? I just really wanted to make something very flowy, and since I have like this ultra long hair, I might as well put that to good use. So I'll be drawing just lots of hair, which for me was not a great idea. What I noticed, here I went back to anime art styles, of course, like, you always come back. It's like, what is his name? William Afton. I got there. FNAF. Yeah, you got me, yeah. I just always came back to the anime, and at some point I just decided to give up and I stuck with it. So here I was going back to the anime art style, which I wanted in 2016, which I actually came back to in 2017. I just chose the Hamilton stuff. I'll just call it the Hamilton style, okay? I chose the Hamilton style for the 2017 one because I think it's more iconic than the anime art style which I had in later 2017, which was consisting of squarish eyes, which is interesting, but it's like, like, you know, the 2017 like Hamilton one, it's a lot more iconic. So for the 2018 one, I went for the later 2018 one, which I think that at that point I had sort of a defined style, sort of-ish, like for the 2018 phase of my life, I guess. And it was interesting going back because I did those traditionally, but I'll be doing these digitally because I just find it easier to edit and record overall. I was doing stuff on my desk and it was a mess, so I couldn't find space to record, okay? This is easier. I also think that I would have gone for the digital route anyways because I'm a mixed media illustrator overall, so we're here, and I'm pretty sure that I would have gone this route anyways, no matter what. So I used a pen that didn't fade out or have like pressure. It's like all the same pressure because at that point I was using, I'm pretty sure, Sharpie pens. I'm pretty sure, so there wasn't much like pressure. It was just pretty much Whoa, my brain just bugged out. I don't know if I said that word correctly, but you can imagine what I said, okay? It was all pretty much the same pressure, so there wasn't any fading out or any thinner lines anywhere, and I wanted to sort of imitate that because it also looks very anime-like, as in actual animation-like from the actual like animation cartoons. And I think that this suits very well for the 2018 thing that I intended to do primarily, but never actually got there. So when I did the line art, one thing that I noticed as I started studying my old 2018 art style is I didn't do lower lashes. Like, why didn't I do lower lashes? I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting because nowadays I tend to do it, except for my silly chibis. Like, these fellas don't have bottom lashes, okay? And they're just eyes. But they're like very sweet. But I found that really interesting, so I did that. I think that the only thing that would have changed here, what would it be? I mean, I would learn anatomy first of all. I really like that I used to make a very bean-shaped head. So I tried sort of going for that, like longer-ish, but like very cheeky. As in cheeks, not cheeky as in haha funny, silly. And I tried going for an almost like... I used to use colored pencils during this era, which is insane to think of because I put a lot of effort into that. I even blended things out. So it looks very three-dimensional, as in the hair and whatnot. It has like very soft shading stuff. And I think that I would have sort of stuck to that, but I would have also implemented self-shading in there, which I think that I would have primarily gone towards, because if I had found out that the non-pressure pen would have looked very animated anime art style, I would have stuck with that. I would have gone for the self-shading route, which would have brought even more that feeling of like very anime art style, and I would have been happier in that way. So in the end, I do add like a little bit of soft shading, mostly to the hair, just to add some dimension there. But in this era, I didn't do much of like any After Effects. Of course, I was using colored pencils. What sort of After Effect did I do? Like, you have to understand, I was very dumb, okay? Not that I'm not now, okay? Nowadays, my one brain cell is trying its best, but I had no notion of reality. I didn't know what the art community was, for you to have an idea, and I didn't know that other art styles existed. I never even put in my head like, wait, how are these like digital anime drawings even put on the internet that I like used to see and search up and look for inspiration in? I just thought that those were from actual shows, like screenshots. And I never even understood how they even got there. How did they make them? Like, I had no brain. It's impressive. Sometimes I look back and I'm just surprised. So here is the finished result somewhere of the 2018 art style, which honestly, this looks just so flowy and great. It's just so great. So at that point, I was a little bit too into the flowy hair thing. So for 2019, we actually just go crazy with the hair. 2019 was when I met the art community later on, or at the beginning of the year. I think that was actually, was it the beginning? I think it was, yeah, it was the beginning. It was also when I joined Instagram for the first time on my old account, which thank God I abandoned, because my God, what a horrible place to be. Anyways, this was when I met the art community, not this in the back here, but like actual 2019, and actually started studying more so and trying to learn. I remember practicing a lot back then using BGD dolls. Yeah, I used to use BGD dolls as references for poses, which was an interesting idea. Photographers, I love you. And at this point, I went back to bottom lashes, which is great. I added bottom lashes. I actually also lashified my art. This is the lashification of Angel Kill. Okay, here eyelashes start getting thicker because at that point, if you go back in time, I don't know why, but 2019, everyone just decided to thicken eyelashes in anime drawings. So that's sort of what I went for. And at this point, I still used Sharpies, but I had learned how to sort of do a pressing effect. So I looked for a pen which was still like this very, like, still no pressure pen, but it has slightly a little bit of fade out, like slightly. And I used that. It was great. It gave that effect, and it was just wonderful to draw with. I actually really like the way that these pens look. Will I implement that into my normal drawings? Absolutely not. Why would I? So I tried doing that. I also did a half moon inside the eyes. I remember that in 2018 I did like, I'm pretty sure a full circle, or maybe not. But at this point I did only like half circle, and that was the effect. I think that I actually also did some eye shines. I don't know really. The noses are different, and at this point I started almost adding lips. Like I did a sort of outline, so I added that. I hope you did not hear my foot just cracking, because that would be embarrassing. Don't hear my bones, okay? It's private. So, I just went crazy with the hair. Why? One thing that I used to do in 2019, which is actually insane to think of, is adding so many lines to the hair. You can't even imagine the amount of detail that I did to the hair. And I tried going for it. I think that at some point, because I tried doing that, and I started getting tired of it, and I didn't even get halfway through what I used to do in 2019. So I think that at some point I would intensify it less, still add a bunch of lines here and there, like to give it some dimension instead of adding that same dimension with the shading. But I would start using a thing which I do nowadays too, which is adding a layer that automatically adds an outline and sort of adds strands like that, which is also what I did at some point in last year. What is that sort of phrasing? Something that I did last year, which I'm pretty sure I talked about in a previous video, which wasn't posted that long ago, which I can't remember. Oh, my memory is failing me. But I used to do that a lot, and my hairs last year were crazy. Last year I just had a bunch of stuff, okay? I went through some phases. Look, 2025 was something, okay? But here, what I also did was add some more shading, because at this point, 2019 was when I found out about markers, and I used Sharpie markers. Yes, we're still at it. Now that I think about it, I think that in 2018 I actually used Stabilo pens, and in 2019 was when I used Sharpies. It might be. Now that I think about it, that whatever I said previously, ignore it, okay? In 2018 I used Stabilo pens, and 2019 was when I used Sharpies, because at this point I also used markers to add my base colors, and I added some shading still with markers, but also colored pencils, because I was a maniac. Like, whoa! Who does colored pencils for doing stuff? I had actually learned that with a Brazilian artist. Her name is Monica Yugi, if I'm not mistaken. That's the person who I learned how to draw with. That's so cool. I don't know if she's still doing stuff. I'm pretty sure that she had an art school, and like she also gave free tutorials online and whatnot. I don't know. Anyways, back to 2019 here. I started using markers and colored pencils, and I still did like a sort of crazy-ish shading, but I was also experimenting a bit more. So that's sort of what I was going to do here, like add some soft shading, but also I feel like I would have still gone for the self-shading route, because at this point, this still looks like very anime art style, you know, like very animated, like anime. So I feel like I would have still gone for the self-shading, but I would have also still added some more softness, and I would have also pretty much explored like a different sort of shading, like the sort of fade out-ish shading that I did on the hair, like very like chicken scratchy leggy sort of ish, which it adds an effect, it adds something to it, you know, it's interesting, I guess. I'm pretty sure they actually also go back to that at some point later, so that is something that we will revisit again. Do I do that nowadays? Do I? I don't know. So in this whole series here that we see in the back, I will only draw from 2017 to 2023, and even so, like, you have to understand, I actually found the same art style that I've been using for many years now at the end of 2020, okay? Which I know some people might be surprised by, and some people, whenever they look at my drawings, they will be like, there is no way that this is the same art style, this is just too different. But fundamentally, I've been drawing the same since then. I hope you didn't hear my foot cracking again, because again, that will be embarrassing. Don't hear my bones crack, that's private, okay? Because I've been drawing sort of the same idea for the eyes, and the same idea for the line work, and the same sort of idea-ish for like the face, the anatomy, the hair even, the way the hair flows, and just the way I draw technically overall. I've been doing that same thing since the end of 2020 when I started studying more anatomy, which I'm pretty sure that I explained in my folder series episode 8, I think, like the 8th sketchbook tour. I don't know if it's the actual 8th episode, but I know that it's sketchbook 8. When an artist had given me some advice to study some specific stuff. If you want to know the tip, you can watch that video. But that helped me improve anatomically to an immense amount. Like, it changed my whole art. And that is when I found my art style. Because at that point, which we will see in a bit, I used to draw in a very, very specific way. And I abandoned that completely. So in 2019, I would have stuck with an anime art style. If you know my story, basically, from 2018 to 2019, everyone that saw me draw, which, yes, I actually drew publicly, which is crazy to think about, everyone was like, "Oh my god, you're drawing anime! Did you know that my son also draws anime? Oh my god, you're drawing anime, that's so cool! What anime is this? Oh my, this is an anime, right? Oh, that's so crazy! Did you know my cousin also draws it?" And I got tired of it, so I changed it completely in 2020. But if we just imagine, just close your eyes, okay? Close your eyes and imagine with me that I had ignored, just closed my ears and not listened to whatever these people said about me back then drawing anime. If I had just closed my ears and continued on with what I was doing, which I was happy doing it until people started talking about it, I would have done something like this. Which I feel like at this point, I would have also started some shading on the eyelashes and on the line work, because I did different colored line art at this point, so I feel like I would have stuck to that, which is cool. It adds an effect. Not every time it is very useful, but I think it gives a cool look overall if you're just doing an illustration. But it doesn't really change much overall, but I feel like I would have gone for it and I would have stuck with it, because, I don't know, it looks cool, I guess. And at some point here, you will see the finished result of the 2019 art style, but it's 2026! Can you believe that was almost a decade ago at this point? Because I surely cannot. Time passes too quickly. So now we'll go into 2020, which previously mentioned, people talked too much and I did not enjoy it. So I went back to a Western cartoonish art style, which, if you compare the 2017 drawing with this one, you will see pretty much like how identical it is. But at this point, I was also very active? Was I active? Was I commenting? Was I doing stuff? I feel like I was. At this point, I was very active in the art community, and I was like really into other artists of all sorts. So I saw a lot of animators, a lot of artists overall, illustrators. So I learned a lot of stuff, as in movement and anatomy and whatnot. So I feel like I would have still gone for the very round look. At this point, I was also studying how cartoonists draw eyes, so I went for a really button eye look, very round, because it's very easy to manipulate expressions when you just have a very round eye. That's something that I learned back in 2020. It was just really easy, okay? Like, the easiest way to manipulate emotions is if you have round eyes, which nowadays I have a few different eye shapes, which I draw for very specific characters. Depends on what I'm trying to convey, of course. I love using shape language, okay? And, well, I would have stuck with the round eyes, I feel like. Just a round look overall, honestly, because this is the 2020 chibification. And it was honestly so interesting going back to the chibification of 2020, because it's just, I don't know, after talking about it for so long and pretty much bullying my old self in my sketchbook tours, after just doing that a lot, I just went back. I don't know, it fulfills something in me. I also did button noses in 2020, but I used to intensify it a lot. I feel like over the years I would have intensified it less, still added it, but just in a more, subtle way, because at that point it was just huge eyes, they were supposed to be the main focus, so I tried to keep it that way. And I also used to do crazy hairs, just flowy hairs everywhere, honestly just flowy clothes everywhere and lots of folds. Here I still added the folds in the clothing because, oh my god, I used to do that a lot in 2020. Some just made no sense, actually. Most of them made no sense. But at this point I would have still added it, also intensified less so that it made more sense. And still added the same way of hair strands that I sort of did-ish. I like adding hairlines, okay? I love doing that. It adds a three-dimensionality that the drawing just really needs overall. The head, specifically, since most of the time that's my main focus. So I would add that pretty much to every single one. But here, I also started doing very spirally stuff, so I sort of add that to the hair. Like, my hair does not have any curve at all. I have the straightest hair possible. Imagine a dry spaghetti. Today I'm really thinking of spaghetti. I don't know why, but just think about that. That's my hair, okay? But I just love some spirals. It adds movement, it adds stuff, some interest, and everything else great in life. Also, another crazy thing that I used to do in 2020 is just extremely thin line art. So I added that, which I also used to not clean up my line art very much. So to actually fill my own 2026 drawing in here, I had to actually draw an outline around the whole character where I wanted to fill it in, and then pick the buckle tool and fill it in, because at this point I use a very great little tool in Krita called the enclose and fill tool. Something like that it's called. I have no idea the actual name of it. It's like enclose and fill, close and fill enclose tool. I know it has a tool at the end, but you will see whenever I click that to fill stuff in. That's the little tool that I use, which is great. Here that wouldn't work because my line art is just really thin, and I will not try and find wherever I didn't close it properly to, close it properly. But at this point I also started using very desaturated colors, which next year we will go even crazier with that, because I will intensify that even more than I did this year, because at this point I used no colors whatsoever. And I also used to draw really thick characters. I don't know what happened. It's like when you grab an image and you just squish it, you know how it just looks very wedged and thick? That's sort of what happened to my art. I don't know. I think that it's sweet overall, but I don't know what it was with the chibification of 2020, okay? I know that the chibification of 2020 also brought me a lot of issues with comparisons. Overall, the 2020 art community was something you couldn't draw anything, and people were coming to compare you with someone else, and not in a good way. So that was something. And I don't know. I feel like I would have learned anatomy still, and to be able to stylize it properly the way I do here, because nowadays I understand anatomy to a decent extent. I can't say I'm perfect at it. I can't say I'm perfect at anything, because that would be a lie, okay? That would be a lie. I will not lie to you. Well, maybe at some point. Who knows? I can't say never. Maybe I have to lie to you to protect my life. Do I have to do that? Hopefully not. I feel like I would have still learned anatomy and learned stuff. I also used to use still a cell shading art style in 2020, but I remember that I used to sort of blend certain parts out just so that there was still an illusion of soft shadow, so I would have done something similar to that. I also remember that in 2020, for the highlights, I used to do something different, which was adding white lines and circle-ish stuff. And for my character specifically, because if you see my 2020 drawings, I used to add lots of sparkles in the eyes. but for Angel Kill, the character, it doesn't make sense to do that, because Angel Kill, my persona character here, let's just say that this being here, they're going through some stuff, okay? And I guess that is pretty much it for 2020. It's like very cartoonish and simplish, which at this point I was going back. I started listening to some Hamilton musical songs again, specifically Helpless and Satisfied, because as I was drawing this and the 2017 one, I don't know what it was, but the memories just started flooding my head and I just couldn't stop singing it. So I was like, okay, let's actually like put some of, like, let's put that song specifically in the back here while I'm drawing this, right? And so I did that. And I've been singing Helpless for the past few weeks ever since, because that really sticks with you. Like, those songs are just so catchy. I'm honestly sad thinking about how I will never see that musical live. Never. So that's something. But I don't know, so it was just an interesting experience. Is this more Galactabon style like? I have no idea. But you can see like the progression. If you compare the 2017 one, but 2026, and the 2021, but 2026, you can see that it's like sort of an improvement of that. Because I have to admit, the 2017 one is just really not my cup of tea. I tried going for like some thicker lines because colored pencils, no, just pencils in general have like that sort of British, thicker line-ish sort of stuff. This one is like very thick, no, the contrary. Very thin and clean and it just looks so good. I don't know, 2020, great one, okay, great one. And I think that at some point here you should see the result of the 2021, which, guys, I think it looks great. I don't know if it's very Galactabon inspired or not, but I do like the look of it. So then we go to 2021. What is with me and years? In 2021, I would have gone back to my what am I doing? To my anime art. I would have gone back to it and I would have, what am I saying? Let's just count time here. At the end of 2020, I went back to my anime art style. I learned anatomy and I learned how to draw, okay? I left the chibification and I would have done that. And in 2021 is when I started Angel Kill. So at the end of 2020 was when I went crazy again and all of that stuff that happened to me and I became who I am today, which is a human being with lots of issues. So at that point, I remember I did eyes really dark, so we will try doing that again for this one. And overall, just not chibifying myself. So I wanted to draw myself suffering pretty much, because that was the main thing going on in 2021 for me. What will change mostly, because at the end of 2020 I found the same art style that I have nowadays, so there isn't much difference here, except that at this point I didn't fill in part of the eyelashes, so we will add that sort of non-painted part there for whatever reason that I thought was cool back then, so we will do that here as well. But we still drew like two nostrils, sort of nose-ish. I actually did draw noses at this point, which is an interesting thing. So we will actually draw nose. Surprisingly, it's not like just some line or anything really, or some like lines painting out some sort of shadow. Like, I drew actual noses and I added shading to that nose. So we will draw a nose here, which I have a long nose. So we will draw a long nose, long, thin nose, I guess. Something. And I also drew the mouths. I still like very anime-ish, but also sort of cartoonish, which you can see in some specific drawings that like it had like sort of bean-shaped mouth sort of situation going on, like very still cartoonish. Some of that little cartoon western study from 2020 still stuck with me through that year. My folds at this point, They calmed down, which is a great thing. We started learning some stuff there, right? Some little fabric reactions, like how things work. That's great to learn. I also stopped adding so much stuff to the hair, as in hair strands. I remember that at this point I drew like a very slick and shaped hair, as if you were like actually styling and sculpting hair. And I did add lots of like waves to the hair. Imagine like a wavy sort of old Hollywood style hair. That was what I did a lot back then. So we will sort of go for something similar to that, like very sculpted and wave and not really spirally, but like very flowy. And we will go for that. And for the colors in this little era of my life, I decided to do something different. Because at the beginning of that year, I'm pretty sure that I was still using like very intense colors, just colors overall. And at some point, I studied color theory extremely hard. It came from a dream back then that I had, where I pretty much looked at my Instagram account and I saw a bunch of drawings that I had published following colors, and I had like actually drawn those out, like every single color in the, what is it called, rainbow, I got there. I drew a drawing based on every single color of the rainbow, and I sort of contrasted that with its opposing color, which I guess that's where contrast comes from, right? And then later on, I did some more studies, and at some point I learned like color theory to an extent that I was like, okay, I'm just going to go monochromatic, purple, of course. Of course. I think that there is one very clear thing throughout the years from 2020 up to now, which is that I love purple, okay? I just love purple and that won't change. So I just went this like really dark, desaturated purple route. Because at that point I was like, I can use the purple color to sort of imitate skin tone, hair, and everything else in the environment while using just a monochromatic color scheme and still making it look sort of naturalish, because the entire environment is already that color, so the colors in there would be affected and sort of turned into that same color anyways. And I sort of started exploring that idea, which gave us this iconic little look here, just very like surrealish and dark, and just it had like this horror fantasy look, which is just very eerie, right? And magical, but like something is wrong. And I think that I would have stuck with that throughout some time. I think that it is the iconic part of this era, that and the eyes. Because if you see my 2020 drawings, 2021, oh my god, it's so many years that I'm getting confused already. Use your brain, Angel, use your brain. We got this. If you look at the eyes in 2020, I used to use the airbrush on actual black, okay? Black hue, shade, value. It could be anything really. I like just pure black, and I used that to shade the eyes and just make them like really deep and intense. And then I even added overlay to the color in the eye to like really make them shine, along with like some other shines and other little details, which I think that at this point is also when I started doing the little circle and lines inside the eyes to add the eye shines. So that's something, right? Iconic. If you look at my eyes closely, you will still find that to this day. But here, like, the hair gets more sleek and less shaded and just like more, you know, it still has this very painterly look, which I have to admit, okay? I know, knowing myself, I've always been an illustrator that praises speed, okay? For myself specifically, not for others. For others, I don't really care what they do as long as they're actually drawing. Like, that's great. I love what they do. But for myself, I've always praised speed more than anything, really. So I know that I would have simplified everything for every year either way so that I could draw faster. And whenever we get through my sketchbooks, the later ones, because we're still in 2020, you will actually see like instances of me being like, I need to draw faster, I need to draw faster, I'm too slow, I'm too slow, I'm too slow. When I actually like drew 10 pages in my sketchbook every single day and used to study things just intensely, and I still considered myself slow. Imagine that my past self saw myself nowadays. Whenever I'm tired, I'm like, you know what, I'm just not gonna draw anything in my sketchbook and I'm just gonna go through it anyways. Imagine if they saw that. They would have actually punched me. My past self, honestly, kind of dangerous. Anyways, so I know I would have simplified things either ways, because in 2020 I used to paint a lot, which I sort of did here. I started doing like a sort of three-dimensionality in the face, which is great. It brings like a really vivid, believable, lively, overall 3D like sort of expression to the characters, so that's great. But overall it's a lot simpler, cuter, but it brings across that same thing. So if you compare the little 2021 to its past 2021 self, you can see, right? You can see. Also improvement, so that's great. So for 2022, not much changes, except for the color scheme. The color schemes changed completely, because in 2022, I remember that I got tired of this monochromatic lifestyle that I was living, and I decided to go back to color. And I remember that in 2022 is when I started drawing things more vividly. But what I will go mostly for is at the end of the year, when I started doing more expressions. So here I will draw myself doing like an expression, still with the long flowy hair, because we gotta add something interesting, okay? Just something. So here I wanted to make myself look sort of more distraught, maybe, like it's just like this sort of you know. Does that explain the expression that I was going for? This you know. And I remember that at this point I did start adding more to the hair, actually a lot more. At this point I remember doing highlights, like the usual spiky highlights that I even do nowadays, and anything else really, like. But I remember adding a sort of outline to that to really intensify that. I also started studying more of the actual three-dimensionality of the bodies overall, so we started going to more like the shape language sort of territory, and I did eyes. What am I talking about? I mean eyes too, but I did noses differently. Here is where I stopped intensifying the nose, stopped drawing like the intense, like almost realistic, in quotes if you want, noses. I went back to the usual anime art style nose, which is just a little line there, but I still added, I'm pretty sure, like a nose bridge, I think. And I still used to draw like roundish mouths for the actual characters. Also, another thing that changes throughout these years is the way that I draw eyebrows, which in 2022 I'm pretty sure that I start doing eyebrows the same way that I do them now, which is like lots of little beginning lines and then some at the end. Well, the thing is like an outline that I fill in later, which at the beginning of my journey, I just draw like straight up black lines, just the usual way. This is also when I start doing some more intensification to the line art, because in 2021, in comparison to 2020, I did thicker lines. Here is when I start like doing thicker lines in some parts, thinner lines in some others. The only difference being really that I feel like I would have been more intentional with that later on if I had stuck with that way of drawing, because at that point I was doing like the usual thing, which is thickening wherever the lines meet, which it does give a cool look. It looks nice, sure, but if you outline specific parts that you want to catch more attention, it does bring a lot more to you. I mean, to you, no, but to your drawing. So I feel like I would have gone that route, which is also the route that I go for nowadays. And for shading, I still used to do the usual intense, like very painterly shading, but I intensified that less. I feel like I would have gone for that. And during this year, I used to do very extreme lighting, so we will still do that. For a lot of these, I tried going for a lot of different sort of lights and some interesting shadows and interesting just, vibes overall. which is also why I started adding like these flowy hairs and, you know, just sort of stuff. This is also when spiralification comes back. There's a lot of ifications here. And I went back to spirals, so that's great. The eyes, I stopped doing the intense black shadows, so we will disintensify that, but I'm pretty sure that I still used to do more to the eyes than I do nowadays. I know that a lot of my 2022 art consists of adding... It's really weird calling my own drawings art, because I don't know, it's just uncomfortable saying that for myself. It just seems pretentious. I prefer saying illustrations, drawings. In my 2022 drawings, I used to do lots of textured backgrounds. Like, sure, I did backgrounds as well, as in draw them out, but I used to use a lot of textures in my stuff, like the usual, what's it called, halftones, along with some other like speckly stuff, which overall I add these to the background, to all of them, pretty much. 2020 also consists of intense like chromatic aberration. I just loved adding that so that no one would zoom into my drawing without feeling a headache. So we will add that again, because I love making people suffer, I guess. And I don't know, it gives something, right? So at some point here you will see the finished result of the 2022 drawings. It's not plural, it's one. And I don't know, I think it looks good. If you compare it to 2022, it gives something, I guess. 2023 is where things change completely, okay? At that point in my life, I was going through some stuff, okay? Things that I can't talk about on YouTube. I was very busy as well, in comparison to the previous years, so I needed to draw really fast if I wanted to draw at all. So what I did was, I had this idea. I mean, first of all, Little Miss Future happened, right? So I had this idea of a way to draw really fast that looked like it belonged into itself and was just cool. So what I did was going for this very painterly style, which would then sort of blend into the background. Talking for 55 minutes straight was not a good idea. I'm slowly losing my voice. I remember I did the base very specifically, which I used a painterly brush that I had made, and then put down the base, and I just did it all willy-nilly. Like, it didn't have to be completely inside the line art and fill it in like perfectly. It could either go out or not and like sort of blend in, because like the outlines had less opacity. It was very painterly overall. That way I could spend less time trying to control everything perfectly and just paint, right? And then I added the base color, which was the skin, and then I started painting. A lot of the 2023 art style was based on painting and intense colors and control overall, because one part of my life needed control at that point. For the actual shading, I did things just really fast. Like, I used some paintbrushes as in what I had in Paint Tool Sai, which was what I used still at that point. When did I start using Krita? Was it last year? Did I start using Krita last year? My god. I mean fully, because I used Krita for like effects back in 2022. I remember that I started just painting. So instead of adding multiply layers, I just actually grabbed the color that I wanted things to have and painting it and controlling it that way. So I'll put down my base colors and then add like a layer on top, maybe. I'm pretty sure that I did add it. Maybe sometimes not, maybe sometimes I did. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that I did. And I would just start painting each part. Like, I'd select certain colors inside of my drawing. For example, the hair was a different color, maybe the outfit and the skin and yada yada, and just start painting. Now, since I had good understanding of color theory from 2021, I could apply that, and I feel like I would have still stuck to it. Maybe I would have gone a bit cleaner with it over the years, which I'm pretty sure I did for my own little recreation here in the back. But what was the biggest thing in 2023? Now, what is it called? I know it's not lobotomy. Lobotomy is something completely different. I think it's called lomography, which is this. I mean, I don't know if it's a brand or if it's the actual technique, but I basically fell on a rabbit hole on Pinterest of photography, which included like physical photographs, right? Like film that they then started revealing. Is that the name in English? I think it is. Revealing the film using unconventional products, which then added this really interesting chemical effect to the film, which gave a bunch of colors and splotches and just this incredible texture, and I grew obsessed with that during 2023, okay? It was something else, so I just started adding crazy colors to my drawing. It looks like someone is just completely high, which honestly explains stuff considering that it's 2023. I would have still gone... Comparing 2023 to 2021 is insane, honestly. But it's great. So I would have still done it, which I still remember vividly how I used to draw in 2023, which I'm pretty sure that if you watch any like time-lapse or speed paint of my 2023 drawings, which yes, they're up on my channel. Surprisingly, you can watch that if you want to for some reason. I still think that I got it down pretty much. Sure that I'm using a different program, but I'm pretty sure that I got the exact like way that I used to draw, right? At the end, I will add lots of strands, loose strands, into the hair because that's something that I used to do. Instead of using the layer mode, which adds an automatic outline to the strands, I just added the actual strands of hair there because, well, Paint Tool Sai at that time didn't have it. Nowadays, I think that it actually does with the recent update, which I don't know if I will. I don't know if I will because I'm using Krita, and I really don't think that Sai can offer me what Krita already does, right? Like, I have no need to go back to it, I think. I honestly didn't really look at the update, I just know that it got updated and it has like some new stuff that other programs have, like CSP and Krita and Photoshop. I don't know, I think it's cool for the nostalgia of it, right? But I don't think that I need it. Anyways, back to 2023. What can I say? I remember doing like very cute faces, very like cartoonish, cutesy faces, very bean-like, very just, very sweet, so I sort of did that. A lot of the 2023 things is just simplification overall. I used to choose myself the colors which I wanted to use in drawings, so I just did like the color wheel stuff myself instead of using layer modes, because it's just easier. I honestly couldn't really explain to you, I just know that like I saturate stuff a lot. I guess that that's something. There is like some three-dimensionality to the face, not as much as before. A lot of stuff got less intense over the years, especially during this year, because at this point I just simplified things a lot. So that's something. And I don't know. That's pretty much it. Now, I don't draw the 2024, neither 2025, neither 2026, which is the year we're in right now. If you're watching this in the future, hi, I guess, I don't know. Neither did I draw 2016, because there's no reason for me to do that. Like, even the 2021, 22, 23 ones, I didn't really need to do those, because at the end of 2020 was when I found my art style. I just explored those because there were a lot of different techniques that I used to use. 2022 specifically doesn't have much different stuff from what I do nowadays, but if you look at this drawing, for example, in 2024, it's pretty much the same thing that I do nowadays, okay? There is not much difference. Nowadays I also use just multiply layers and a lot of this stuff, I guess, and just sort of intensify it and then do some overpainting, maybe to some parts. 2025 has like some more interesting stuff since I got obsessed with the glitter brushes at some point and I started doing like the automatic outlines for like the strands. But like overall, it's the same thing. I draw the same way, so there isn't much to add. At least I think so. You can tell me down below if I should have drawn it, maybe. But overall, it's the same thing. So at some point here, I'm pretty sure you will see me do that layer of that lomography style, which I add like a full base of red and then start like adding the yellow and then some purple and blues in a way that leaves like the red in between it, you know, that like little red outline that sometimes skin gets when hit by the sun. That's sort of what I used to try imitating with my little drawings back then. And then we're pretty much done. I add some outlines to define some stuff, and I do that for every single one. And we got 2023. It's interesting? Sure. More so color-wise than anything, because it isn't much different from what I do nowadays. And it isn't much different than the previous year as well, as in the actual way I draw, instead of the way that I like color. I hope that you liked this little adventure. I honestly recommend you do this, because it's an interesting little thing to have the way that you would draw back then compared to the way you would draw nowadays. It's honestly kind of scary as well. It's like a lap in time. You're like sort of time traveling and talking to your old self, which is cool, I guess. Either way, I hope that you all have a nice day or night, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!